people in town have seen a billboard all over. They call it the advertising colossus, and they have photographs of Torgbor Mensah. They'll be showing it. The advertising colossus. Tell us about him.
Well, I plan to come with Oboshi. That's the daughter, and Senna as well. Senna is the manager for DDP.
Yeah.
And DDP is the kind of the the star brand in the Argon Holding Limited. Mr. T had a holding company and a number of subsidiaries, all in the marketing communications area. He branched into real estate and was the founding, president of GREDA, Ghana Real Estate Developer Association. And he also had a bit of an interest in finance, So,
finance?
Yes. He set up a microfinance company. So Mr. T was your out-and-out businessman. But he started very humble. He often said that if there was anybody who epitomized rags to riches, he was the one. Born poor, his father was more of a fetish sort of priest. The mother was into, basic things. A bit of his father is from Elmina, a bit of the mother is from Togo, right? And Osuru as well. So it's a kind of a mixture. So when you see all the jovial, attitude, very large, humorous attitude, I think that's pretty much Fanti, side of him. And I think the discipline, organized bit will come from the Togolese, because the Togolese were ruled by Germans, and Mr. T's early beginnings in terms of teaching him the raw advertising bit was by a German tutor. So he learned all that discipline from him. He tells very interesting stories about how he will be painting or drawing. Those days the outdoor advertising, you had to draw, you really had to do the artwork and paint, and he'll be doing this and he'll be receiving some knocks on his head because he wasn't doing the right thing. So he had the right training in the core outdoor advertising bit, which is what settled him. But despite all his humble beginnings, he's just somebody who focused on hard work and discipline and efficiency. And as I said, he learned that from the German gentleman that he worked with. By the way, he was actually trained by Ketz's father or grandfather, Ketz Okraku.
Or the GFA president.
Exactly, and Okraku is the one who trained, from the German, Mr. T moved on to work with an Okraku, and I think that also helped in terms of his learning with the advertising industry.
How come he knew so many people? He knew, and had a conversation with him. He knows everybody.
Well,
he has an encounter with almost everybody.
Well, I think it has to do with his nature. He realized that coming from that humble background, you got to network, and Mr. T was all about networking. How did he get hold of me? I mean, I was sent by the Ghana Boxing Authority to look for sponsorship. So I walked into his office, and then instead of talking about the sponsorship, he was keen on me coming to help him and put things together. So he just loved everybody, and he made a deliberate effort to get to know people. And so he joined the Lions Club, all the associations you can think of, just to be able to connect, because he didn't have parents who had all the connections and the contacts. So he definitely had to link up and network, and Mr. T believed in that. And it was not just in Ghana, relating to people all along the West Coast, in Nigeria. In fact, the whole marketing communications regime in Ghana changed when Mr. T brought, what is it called? Media monitoring. Not only media monitoring even came later. Mediacom, and he brought a Nigerian guy to come and help with media planning. That's the point I wanted to make. Because
for the advertiser.
Yes, for marketing communication. All that Ghanaians knew in those days was that you put a billboard somewhere just to attract people. But media planning, you could use the data and the statistics in respect of, for example, the amount of volume of traffic on a particular road to determine, where you should put a particular billboard in order to achieve a particular eyeball watching, All right. So on the road, in terms of outdoor advertising. So the technical aspect of it is what he gained. And he gained all of that through networking with people in South Africa. He had huge contacts in South Africa. A lot of the companies that I started with him were from his friends in South Africa. And as I said, the Nigerian bit was what shot up in terms of media buying and planning. Because, you got to know the media landscape. It's not just outdoor. You got to know the traditional media, radio, television, and the print media. You got to gauge, the sort of audience that these people have in order to determine that, okay, if I place this particular advert here, this is the impact that I'm going to make. So because advertising had become very scientific, and you needed to grow from the, raw, slash bang, which Ghana used to do. They were placing billboards all over the place in the 60s and the 70s and 80s, and moving into the 90s, we got to be a bit more modern. And he just didn't stop there. The electronic billboarding that you see with DDP, all of that came from him. Indeed, at the point, if you walked into Ghana and you also went to New York, it was the same. You couldn't see the difference. Because the quality, of the electronic, that Mr. T was able to serve was world class. And he's done a lot with DDP. And I think that at the end of the day, when you say a Ghanaian colossus in terms of marketing communications, you can't go beyond that. We just paid a visit to inform the former president that he had passed away. And we were told that, he was, the former president went to GIJ, did journalism, and he said when it came to the practical aspects of it, Mr. T was the one that they always used, to come and share with them the practical knowledge in marketing communication. So, and I used him, when I was lecturing business law at the School of Administration. And you should have been there, Paul. He eventually took the whole class through. I thought it was going to be difficult for him, but he was just magnificent. And the students wanted me to bring him on. So he fitted everywhere, and his quality was international. It wasn't just Ghana. I mean, in terms of the housing industry and exhibitions, they don't go beyond him. All the exhibitions, the trade fair that we saw in the early 70s and the 80s. All
that was Mr. T. That's
all of them. He built all the exhibitions.
When you speak, we will see things that we have done that was Mr.
No,
the trade
all
fair,
of it.
And Indotech.
Exactly. All of those things he went on. Even with VAT, when we had the problem, and if you talk to, I've forgotten his name, the NDC communications man who came to change things. His name just... No, not
Spiel.
Spiel.
Yeah, Spiel Gabra.
Spiel was the person you could see, but the technical work in dreaming of the concept to educate Ghanaians, it was Mr. T.
Okay, VAT was done VAT post-Kumi
Yes,
Preco.
Exactly. It was done by
the reintroduction of VAT after the Kumi Preco event.
Yeah. All the marketing communication was done by one of our companies.
Pay your taxes, something like that.
He did all of that. So all the tech. So, Ghana Goes Metric, Ghana Goes Right. All of those campaigns were part of Mr. T's repertoire. He did everything in terms of
him and the fact that we are talking of him dead. I was also remember his relationship with Obete Bilamte, who was like him too.
Yes, very much. So they worked together a lot. And I think that comes to the point about institutionalizing and structuring the advertising industry. So the Ghana Advertisers Association is his baby. And when you're talking about Jake, they work together, and Norcodia as well in terms of advertising industry. They worked together to make sure that there was a superintending structured authority to organize advertising in Ghana, because then everything was a bit haphazard, and he saw it grow through the ranks. Francis Darcy. Francis was he's been the first the longest executive secretary, and Francis has been able to stabilize the advertising industry. You can see sometimes billboards are all over the place. There's a rainstorm and billboards are flying all over the place. The self-regulation of the Advertising Association has helped to ensure that there was sanity. Quite often a lot of governments wanted to intervene, but Advertisers Association, because of Mr. T's strength, could say that no, we don't want this. Can you leave it to us? We will self-regulate. And that's been very helpful. Indeed, their insertion into the 1992 Constitution in terms of certain organizations, certain institutions, was because Mr. T had structured the AAG in such a way that even the national state institutions recognized that we could use them for our own purposes. I think that you can't.
Somebody sends me a text. The advertisers are sending it. Jimmy Quiz says that please remind Moses that Mr. T brought Don Obilo.
Yep,
the media planner he's trying to remember.
That's it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Jimmy,
actually, Don is the one who.
That's the Nigerian you're trying to remember.
No, there's actually another one, but Don had the
Don Obilo, I know him, yes, with the grey hair.
Yeah. Don is the one who's handling Adams Advertising.
Yes, Adams.
Adams Advertising now. So I mean, a lot of the Adams Group internationally, when the brand was coming to Africa, Argon Holding was able to win it because Don had been poached, and when he came, he managed. In fact, I saw Don grow Adams Advertising from nothing to something great, and there were great creative people that were also brought along. There was a white gentleman, I've forgotten his name. He died about 6, 7, 8 years ago. An Englishman, but very good creative person, and helped to do a lot of creatives that have been significant in promoting and campaigns to other countries.
Wow, that's very interesting. I'm concerned about the Indotech. I'm excited about Indotech and Gifex.
Gifex,
and all those
exactly, things. And I suppose especially the housing industry. Grader was his baby.
Yeah.
And if the housing industry is now stable and it has a structured, group like Grader running it, was Mr. T's idea. All the boom in the 80s and 90s, Mr. T was very instrumental in it. And growing a mortgage industry has been one of the things he's been wishing for. I must be honest, we've got a long way to go, but I think that you cannot talk about the real estate environment without talking about Mr. T. He was such a huge figure. And because he was a creative person, actually he learned carpentry as well.
He was a carpenter?
Yes, he had a company, Woody. In terms of furniture, you couldn't beat him. They produced all the best furniture that we could ever get. And in fact, one of the reasons why he had lots of friends in the political and the business world was that he was the one furnishing their houses. For all them, former President Kufuor and other
with a Woody.
Yes. There's a lot of furniture that he provided, top class furniture, and even in direct marketing. You say below the line advertising. Direct marketing has to do. Another technical name is relationship marketing. You want to build, for example, why is Coca-Cola so popular? It's because when you're growing up, they start with you, all right? And they make sure that they grow along with you. Mr. T was Dymat was one of the first relationship marketing companies that we started when I was group corporate director for him. We did a lot. In fact, we teamed up with Ghana Post to bring up a lot of ideas. Unfortunately, I think that went off a bit. But in terms of integrated marketing communications, that is all the works, outdoor advertising, core advertising, media planning and buying, PR, because we had Infocus PR as well, PR company, and then direct marketing, all the things put together, he as a group, and he put that into a group, an integrated marketing communications group. I think you can't go beyond Mr. T.